Good evening to all our participants, and thank you for joining this webinar. Please be reminded that phones are muted throughout the meeting. Please use the chat box, and for questions, please use the questions box. Our speaker for tonight is Ms. Amanda Bender. She has over 14 years of experience in global health with a strong focus on health system strengthening. Currently, she provides technical and management leadership to PAT's Digital Square and Global Health Security Partnership. For Digital Square, she plays a management role in implementation of the project's global goods work, collaborating with and supporting partners, improving core software development for global goods. Ms. Amanda is also co-chair emeritus of the Global Digital Health Network and remains on the network's board supporting events including the annual Global Digital Health Forum. Prior to joining PATH, Ms. Amanda worked for 12 years at IntraHealth International, leading mHero and IRIS implementations, as well as supporting global health workforce programs. May we now see Ms. Amanda.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me. I am going to, fingers crossed, get this to work. Let me get this slideshow set up here. And all right, can you confirm that you can see my slides?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, hi everyone. My name is Amanda Bender. I work on the digital health team at PATH and spend a lot of my time working on Digital Square. Today I'm going to be talking about Digital Square and kind of how Digital Square came to be and really focus on our work in global goods.
Hello, Ms. Amanda. Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you try hiding your control panel, the GoToWebinar panel?
Oh, my apologies.
The orange icon.
Did I do that? Oh no. I don't
there. There we go. Thank you.
Okay. How's that?
That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, I'm new to this interface. So let me kick off and tell you a little bit about Digital Square. We are an innovative investment mechanism that's really seeking to transform digital health systems. Digital Square lives at the international nonprofit PATH, and it's supported by a lot of donors, including USAID, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, GIZ, a number of other foundations, and really it's a growing consortium of donors. Sorry, now it's not advancing my slides.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm trying to advance my slide, and it will not go. There we go. All right. My computer's waking up early in the morning here on the East Coast. The impact of digital technologies on our lives is indisputable, and I think we can all agree to that. With increasing global connectivity, advances in technology, and decreasing barriers to entry, digital technologies are shaping our collective future. Governments are looking for more strategic ways to use these tools, and expectations are high that they can help us reach our health goals, such as universal health coverage, the Sustainable Development Goal 3, and generally improving health services for individuals. The quote that you see here on this slide is from Dr. Mpoki, the Permanent Secretary of Tanzania's Ministry of Health. And he said this at the inaugural OpenHIE community meeting this past July in Arusha, Tanzania, and I had the privilege of being there and meeting Dr. Mpoki and working with him. During the speech at that meeting, he reiterated the importance and potential of digital tools in the future of healthcare. He is one of the many government officials committed to integrating digital technology into health systems in a more strategic way. Over the last decade, the application of new technologies to support health services has been done in a very piecemeal fashion. New tools and approaches were introduced to address siloed health priorities through pilot programs. While some of these pilots saw a lot of success, in general, they lacked the ability to reach significant scale, and their impact has not been rigorously studied. This resulted in a fragmented system with a growing number of uncoordinated tools. Health workers must use different tools for different health programs and multiple systems to record the data for health centers. This adds an additional burden to already overstretched frontline health workers. I think we can all agree to that. Higher level data aggregation is also a challenge, and governments are struggling to use digital health tools in a comprehensive and strategic way. I don't know if any of you all have read these reports or are familiar with these reports, but I really do encourage you to connect with these. Following the Ebola outbreak in West Africa in 2014, governments and international organizations began calling for more coordination in the digital health space, addressing the fragmentation in the system to mitigate confusion and duplication of efforts in the future. The Broadband Commission on Sustainable Development released a report in 2017 calling for coordinated, evidence-based digital health solutions. In addition to this report, there is a strong policy consensus around the need for interoperability and coordination. One important recommendation is supporting co-funding for the broader digital health ecosystem, and I'll dive into that a little bit more. So this is where Digital Square comes in. Digital Square is really born out of a lot of the reports that you saw there, a lot of the challenges that we saw in the Ebola outbreak. This is the solution that was born. Taking lessons from the Ebola crisis and listening to the priorities of governments, donors, and implementing partners around the world, Digital Square provides that really important collaboration and coordination in the digital health sector. We are helping to create a world where health systems connect seamlessly. We envision a world where countries are empowered to develop sustainable national digital health infrastructure through coordinated investments so that governments and decision makers can access the information they need when they need it and to ensure better health data and health outcomes for all. There we go. We are building this world by coordinating investments into smart, scalable technology solutions and creating an environment in which these technologies can be sustained. Digital Square focuses on strengthening digital health governance and advocacy at the global, regional, and country levels, along with aligning stakeholders on all sides of the digital health sector. Through our work in co-investment, global goods, and digital market readiness, Digital Square supports the digital health marketplace from all sides. Digital Square is a partnership of the world's leading digital health experts from over 40 organizations, which work together with countries to strengthen digital health systems. By convening government officials, technology innovators, donors, implementing partners, and others across borders and boundaries, we can achieve our common goal, connecting the world for better health. Through a consortium of donors, a strong group of implementing partners, our governing board, and the peer review committee, Digital Square can leverage a wide range of skills and expertise to create comprehensive strategic digital health systems alongside country leadership. I'm going to mention these groups a little bit more in the presentation, especially when I get into the global goods piece. But I just want to really emphasize the uniqueness of this project and the co-investment piece about getting funding from multiple donors and just this wide range of partnership and collaboration built into the structure of the project and really what the project is about. And I think it's what the digital health sector has needed. And it's very value add for the governments because they have multiple partners that they can lean on through the Digital Square mechanism. So Digital Square introduces this innovative approach to financing investments in digital health. Our co-investment mechanism is a simple but powerful concept that coordinates funding from numerous donors to enhance the digital health marketplace. Our partners get involved at the local level that best suits their interests and priorities. We focus on aligning donor priorities with the priorities of country governments, ensuring that funding goes to needed initiatives with a high level of success. Digital Square then supports a range of activities that support the digital health marketplace. Activities fall into three broad groups: global goods for digital health, country-level support, such as country buy-ins, and global coordination. In this presentation, as I mentioned, I'm going to focus more on global goods, but I'm also going to talk a bit about the global coordination. All of these activities contribute to a thriving and growing ecosystem that supports country priorities for digital health. As I mentioned, we work with more than 40 partners. We invest in over 17 global goods, and that number is going to be increasing when we announce some new global good investments later this week. And we currently support 4 country buy-ins. This is just a small snapshot of our success to date. So let's talk about global goods and the work that we're doing to support them. The digital health space faces the challenges of 1,000 blooming flowers. I think many of you have heard this analogy before, but this is really that health systems disease that we call pilotitis. The proliferation of unsustainable pilots and tools that I mentioned earlier that have caused some countries, such as Uganda, whose official statement calling for coordination in e-health is featured in this image here. Uganda called for digital health efforts to be harmonized and coordinated, mandating a stop to one-off pilots that do not support the Ministry of Health's goals and tools that do not integrate with their established health information systems. Increasingly, tools supported by a strong collective global community of developers and implementers like IRIS and DHIS2 here offer the much needed response to that loosely defined, mature digital health global good software. To that pilotitis problem. And I just want to talk a little bit about global good definitions because this comes up quite a lot. We loosely define global goods as digital health software that is usually free and open source. It must be supported by a strong community. The global good has a clear governance structure. There's funding from multiple sources. It's been deployed at scale significantly. So for these 2 mentioned here, IRIS has been deployed in over 20 countries. This is a health workforce information system, or human resource information system, and DHIS2, which many of you know, HMIS, has been deployed in over 60 countries. We also loosely define global goods as those that have demonstrated effectiveness. They must be designed to be interoperable with other systems, and they're an emergent standard application. Global goods are adaptable, interoperable digital health tools that can be used in different countries and contexts. They can take the form of either software or content. So content would be something like a market analysis or a toolkit. Digital Square supports 17 investments into global goods, and on this slide you can see a couple of those investments. You can also visit our Digital Square wiki to learn a lot more. And as I mentioned, we'll be announcing probably later this week or early next week the new investments that have come out of our Near to See. So let me talk to you now about how we get there. How do we get to those investments? One of our innovative models is this open proposal process. It features the transparent submission of concept notes and proposals for anyone who's interested. The process is entirely open, inviting comments, discussion, and collaboration along the way. So just to kind of walk you through how this works, we have an open proposal website, and when we issue a call for applications, folks go onto the website and they submit a concept note. We ask that concept notes be no more than 3 pages, and they're open for about a month. And as I said before, this is an open and transparent site, so anyone can go onto the site and post comments and give feedback to those who submitted that idea. It's also a great way to find a partner, and so several consortiums generally form during this, what we call a concept note phase. Digital Square then reviews the concept notes, and those that meet the criteria in the RFA move on to a proposal co-creation and collaborative feedback phase. So this is another about a month where the full proposals, which are no more than 15 pages, we're not asking for anything too long, are on this open site. So everything is open and transparent. And again, as consortiums are writing their content for their proposals, others in the community can review their progress and provide comments and give them feedback. And this is really important because this is a way to improve as you go. Final proposals and budgets are submitted to the site. The budgets are not open. We do not have those open because we understand there's a lot of confidential information in budgets. After the submission phase ends, a peer review committee reviews all of the proposals. And they've usually been giving comments and feedback all along. But what they do is they provide feedback to Digital Square based on our prioritization framework. So they look at how the proposal rates on technology, how it rates on impact, on sustainability, and measures for success. And then they give a red, green, or amber light vote. So red would be we don't recommend this move forward to the governing board, or doesn't move forward for funding. Amber means this is good, but it needs a little bit more work. Green is this is great. But their review is just a recommendation, and all of their feedback is shared with the governing board for Digital Square. And they're the ones that ultimately make the decisions on which proposals are approved, meaning that Digital Square needs to go and seek funding for them, and which ones are approved and allocated funding for that particular proposal round. When we post a RFP or an RFA, we say upfront how much we have at that time for the proposals, and we usually are able to get additional funds throughout the process, because sometimes donors see the proposals that are coming in and say, hey, we're really interested in this, but nothing is ahead of time decided on. It all comes through this process. There's been an enormous positive response to this collaborative process for identifying and supporting digital health tools for the broader community. So for example, in February 2018, Digital Square released a call for global goods concept notes. 97 concept notes were submitted. 44 of those were considered in scope and moved to the proposal co-creation phase. A couple of consortiums formed, a few folks dropped out, and in the end, 29 proposals were successfully submitted to be reviewed by the peer review committee and the board. So who is that peer review committee that I just mentioned? They're a diverse set of foremost leaders and thinkers in digital health technologies. They review all global good investment proposals and, using a variety of criteria, make non-binding recommendations to the governing board. We have no limit to the peer review committee. Seats are allocated to organizations, and there are currently more than 12 that sit on the peer review committee. And AeHIN is part of the peer review committee. If you're interested in becoming part of the peer review committee, please reach out to me. So who's the governing board? Digital Square is governed by a board which also makes the final decision on global good investments. There are 13 seats on the board, including Digital Square's ex officio. Currently, 10 of those seats are filled. To help identify areas where investments in global goods are needed, Digital Square has collaboratively developed a maturity model for digital health tools. This maturity model specifies common metrics for understanding how advanced a digital health tool is, and it's classified by these 3 dimensions. Software maturity assesses the level of development of the software in such areas as security, interoperability, technical documentation, and scalability. Global utility assesses how widely the tool is used, how well funded it is, and its potential for adoption and future use. Community support assesses both support for a community of users, such as documentation and multilingual support, and engagement of the community with the tool. And when everyone submits a proposal through the open proposal website, they must do a self-assessment using this global good maturity model, because we want to see how do they rate themselves along these 3 dimensions. If they rate low, it doesn't mean they get a bad score. This is just a bit of a baseline. And what we're doing for those global goods that are funded and receiving funds through Digital Square, we are doing a review of their self-assessment as their awards kick off. And then we will do an inline just to see if the needle moved at all throughout the implementation. This is a very high level snapshot of the funding or the investments that received funding through our notice cycles A and B. And we call a notice cycle every time we release an RFA. And as I mentioned, later this week, early next week, we'll announce the Notice C awards. And what I've done in this image here is classify the investments across the classification for digital health interventions. A lot of the work touches on data interchange, interoperability, and accessibility. Here you can see a couple of the donors who are funding these specific investments. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation provided a lot of the funding for Notice C, as well as GIZ. So I'm not going to go into every single global good that's been invested in through Digital Square. You can read about them on the wiki, but I will highlight just a few of them. The IRIS Foundation is really supporting an IRIS advisory board, which is guiding the community to strengthen the IRIS tool. They're looking at things like documentation that need to be improved, training that needs to be improved, and any of the back-end work that needs to be improved, as well as guiding their roadmap. So this is from the Notice A cycle, and it's currently ongoing. And I know that next spring, they're planning to have a version 5 release of IRIS, which looks fantastic. So it's really exciting to be able to support this global good. I'll skip down to the third one and mention the open source laboratory information system technologies community of practice. This is from Notice B. It hasn't launched yet. It's probably going to kick off in January, but I'm really excited about this one in particular because there's so many different laboratory information systems that are being used in our space, and this community of practice will serve as an organizational home for a lot of those systems, including OpenELIS, Bliss, Open Lab Concept, and others. Just a few more that we're supporting. DHIS2, I don't know if any of you participated in a webinar last week to kick off the DHIS2 community of practice, but that's one of the global goods that we're supporting, and we're supporting that community of practice in particular. So really excited about that. We're also supporting the development of a connector between Power BI and DHIS2, working with PSI on that work. It hasn't quite kicked off yet. We're still in the phase to put together the scope of work and the award. We're also supporting OpenCRVS. This is the last one. This is a digitization of common processes for civil registration and vital statistics. And I mentioned this one because this is one of the really unique ones where we've gotten additional co-investment through this open proposal process. So we've been working with Dial, and they are putting in funding for the core software pieces of OpenCRVS, while Digital Square is funding the health pieces of OpenCRVS. So we're really hoping to see more of this, where investors or donors or partners who weren't normally, putting up money or making funds available for a notice cycle, see what comes in, works with us, and is able to co-invest with us, so share the cost of a proposal that's been submitted. So how is this whole open proposal process going? I think it's nice to reflect on this, and we do a lot of this reflection throughout these processes because we're always looking to improve it. I think the acceptance of transparency is really moving along. At first, people did not want to share their ideas via a concept note or a proposal on an open site so that everyone could see it. And I think that folks have gotten a little more comfortable with this transparency and really seen the value of being able to get feedback from peers and even offer feedback from others. And we're also starting to see this more in formal development proposals and through co-creation that's coming from USAID through broad agency announcements, where concept notes are submitted and everyone going after a proposal can see the concept note. So I think this is really a movement of our community to not be proprietary with our ideas and be more open. We're seeing more engagement through the open proposal site, so more people providing comments and feedback throughout the process, which is the point of the site, so that's very exciting. The coordination on co-investment is growing with a number of donors. As I mentioned, GIZ is a new donor for our Notice C process, and we're really excited about that. And the basket of services support for implementers. This is once awards are given, we don't want to just give money out that we've raised through the donors and say, go on about your way. We really want to support these global good implementers throughout. And we've been able to provide support such as offering a communications workshop to the BAMI Coalition to really help them think about how they talk about the BAMI Coalition, how they connect better with their community. So this is something we're looking into, and we're growing the types of services that we provide our implementers. So what are the challenges? The funding gaps. I'm not going to get into all the numbers. I can tell you off the top of my head that from Notice B, the amount of funding submitted through Notice B, through those 29 concept notes, was nearly $10 million. Just under $8 million of that funding was approved. So that was what the governing board said, these investments, the peer review committee gave feedback, we approve investments in these, but only just over $1 million was actually available. So for that Notice B cycle, that gap of $7 million is a real gap, and that's only through one cycle. So that's, for me, one of the biggest challenges, but it also affords an opportunity. Another challenge is the open proposal site. So it's not a challenge in that it doesn't work. We're constantly customizing that site to improve the functionality. We do hear little things about this thing didn't work, or we'd like to see this work better, and we're constantly getting feedback from those who engage with the site. So really being agile to make those customizations as needed is something that's important to us. From Notice B, we actually used an instance on a platform hosted by UCSF. And while that worked and we were testing that out, we wanted to have more flexibility. So we created our own instance of that platform that we used for Notice C and we'll use going forward. Really trying to address that need to be agile and flexible on how the proposals are posted on the site, how the commenting works, how the tagging works. At PATH, we're constantly adapting to apply best practices internally at Digital Square to manage all of this. So there's technical management, there's communications, contractual, and project management support. So we're always trying to figure out how to be faster and more efficient in the management of not only the open proposal process, but also the contracting and the support to implementers once those awards are issued. So this is a bit of a call of action for you to engage and support existing implementations. You can do this by going to our wiki and learning about them and engaging in community of practice like the DHIS2 community of practice, or be on the lookout for the upcoming laboratory information systems, which will be linked with OpenHIE. You can join our Slack channel or follow us on Twitter. If you have thoughts and want to co-author a thought leadership blog, you can certainly let us know. As the notice processes go, you can log on to our open proposal site and give feedback to the concept notes that are submitted, or you can submit one yourself. I have here that Notice D will launch in mid to late January. We actually discussed yesterday we might bump it to February, but definitely early in 2019, so be on the lookout. And as I mentioned earlier, you can join the peer review committee and support review and feedback on the proposals. So I want to shift gears now and talk a little bit about that global coordination piece, which is also an important part of Digital Square. We're looking at broader ways to support coordination in the digital health sector beyond co-investment. We're helping to bring together the right people to drive the conversation around global digital health and find more ways to address the priorities of countries. One way Digital Square is doing this is through existing networks. Digital Square supports and strengthens existing networks in order to build the capacity of local digital health leaders and technology experts. And I really like to see this as, supporting a lot of that core investment in global goods or developing toolkits and working on content. And then the global coordination piece is making sure that the local capacity is built to use those tools. Let me highlight Digital Reach. This is an initiative that's developing a strategic roadmap for digital health in East Africa to support health programs in the region. We have supported Digital Reach through working with them on their implementation strategy. We are also providing an advisory support role. One major area of support is resource mobilization. We realize this is a large task for a small startup organization, so the decision was reached to create a sub-resource mobilization committee. We will be the repository of funds for Digital Reach. So this is a little bit about that initiative. And several of you might have heard about the African Alliance of Digital Health Networks. We provide support, technical support to the African Alliance, which builds from the AeHIN model. And I really love this, south-to-south sharing of developing frameworks and models for networks so that we don't reinvent the wheel and we really learn from those best practices. The African Alliance is a regional overarching network of networks that supports peer learning in digital health between countries, thereby creating the capacity and community infrastructure to enable countries to take the kind of ownership, leadership, and governance necessary to make scale and sustainability of digital health systems possible. The African Alliance is already coordinating with the BID Learning Network, that's the Better Immunization Data Learning Network, to increase efficiency and avoid duplication through intentional collaboration around issues related to health data use, immunization health information systems, and electronic immunization registries. The African Alliance and the BID Learning Network are equally committed to reducing fragmentation by leveraging proven networks and best practices. And finally, let me just mention the Health Data Collaborative. The Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group is one of the 12 current working groups under the Health Data Collaborative. The working group is a platform to align work on global public goods as well as share information in order to prevent duplication at both global and country levels. We serve Digital Square as the secretariat of the Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group, and we've helped to grow its membership to more than 150 members from over 20 countries. This is an open group, and anyone is invited to join the Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group. If you have questions about how to get involved in that group, please let me know. So this wraps my presentation. I know I shared a lot of rich information. We'll be talking about global goods in particular at the Global Digital Health Forum next week. There's also an in-person Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group meeting following the forum. And we're always available on Slack, through email, Skype, or just a phone call away if you have questions about Digital Square. I serve as a community manager role for the global goods work. But as I presented, there's a lot more work going on in this space, including the work with global coordination and our country buy-ins. So I will stop there and see if anyone has any questions. And thank you so much.
Thank you for enlightening us about Digital Square, Ms. Amanda. We are now open for questions. Please type your questions in the questions box. So we have one question from Mr. Philip Zuniga of the Standards and Interoperability Lab for Asia. He wants to clarify if the proposals can be funded or are they limited to software solutions?
Sorry, I just want to read the questions. I'm looking for the chat. Here it is.
Yes.
Well, but it's not showing up for me. Sorry, could you repeat it?
Yes, Mr. Philip Zuniga would like to clarify if the proposals that can be funded are not limited to software solutions.
Are limited to software solutions?
Are not limited.
Are not limited to software solutions. Well, I can say we issue an application, a request for applications based on certain criteria. And in the past, we've really been looking at core software development of global good tools. And this is not work in a specific country, but core software development. And community has been a really big part of that as well, that enabling environment for global goods. So that's how a lot of the community of practice work has come out of this. So it's not just technical software development, but usually it is core software development coupled with that enabling environment piece. For Notice C, we had that call for global good investments, and then we had a more specific announcement posted on support to Open IMIS, which is the insurance system. And that was a much more specific piece of funding that we had received from GIZ to support Open IMIS. And I think in the future we might see a little bit more additional announcements for each call for proposals where it's a little more specific, like looking for a specific piece of work, because donors are looking to try and route funding through Digital Square because they appreciate the coordination efforts that we offer. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Amanda. We have another question from Ms. Christine Pascual. She's asking, what are the general criteria for selecting a proposal?
That's a great question. We have a prioritization framework that we worked with the Boston Consulting Group to develop. And this was so that the peer review committee and Digital Square could have a set of criteria to look at. And there are 4 dimensions of that prioritization framework. They are impact, cost, technology, and probability of success. And there are a couple of underlying metrics for those, such as interoperability or scalability, but these are the 4 dimensions. And when we release a call for proposals, we do discuss this in the announcement that goes out so that everyone can write to these pieces. There's also the underlying importance of sustainability and monitoring and evaluation as part of that. That's really important for reviewers.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Amanda. There's another question from Dr. Pradeep. He's asking, does Digital Square and AeHIN currently run a collaborative project?
Does Digital Square what?
Does Digital Square and AeHIN currently run a collaborative project?
We collaborate with AeHIN quite a lot. Actually, Alvin and Dr. Bunchai are on the peer review committee, so they've been able to give feedback to proposals. AeHIN is also part of the Digital Health and Interoperability Working Group, so there's a lot of collaboration. So there is a very tight collaboration between AeHIN and Digital Square, but that's something that we'd like to grow. And if you all, if anyone has projects or collaborations they want to bring to Digital Square to explore with us, please do let us know, because the AeHIN community is extremely important to Digital Square. The interoperability lab is really important, and I know that's just kind of been getting off the ground. So if there are ways that we can collaborate and work together, we'd be very interested in exploring those.
Thank you, Ms. Amanda. I'm just waiting if there are still questions from our participants. I guess there are no more questions from our participants, Ms. Amanda.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for sharing your time and expertise with us. We hope to hear from you soon. If there are information you would like to share from the forum next week, please feel free to contact us.
That's great, and I want to make sure everyone has my email address too, because I'm very open and happy to engage. So it's just abendor@path.org. So please reach out to me. I'm also on Twitter. And if any of you are going to be at the Global Digital Health Forum next week, please come say hi to me.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Amanda, and thank you to our participants.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.